got so much fucking design on right now. Every time, bring it back, make it come out, got 3 whole thoughts, I'm the bitches on my mind, and you know.
Tan Songyun collapses in tears after Xukai's accident, fans cry with her. What if I told you that behind the perfect smiles, behind the glamour of fame and the dazzling lights of the red carpet, there was a night when everything changed? What if I told you that Xukai, the man known for his strength, his charm, his unshakable calm, was suddenly fighting for his life? And that Tan Songyun, the woman who once called him her greatest comfort, broke down in front of the world, unable to hold back her tears? This is the heartbreaking story of that night. A night that brought the entire fandom to its knees. It began on what should have been an ordinary evening. Xukai had just wrapped a commercial shoot in Shanghai, a long, exhausting day filled with tight schedules and flashing cameras. The team said he looked tired, but happy. Always the professional, always the gentleman, always smiling for the fans waiting outside. And then, the unthinkable happened. On the way back to his hotel, his car was struck by another vehicle at an intersection. The impact was severe. Witnesses described a terrible silence afterward, the kind that hangs in the air before sirens break it apart. Emergency responders arrived within minutes. Xukai was conscious, but barely. According to a staff member on site, his first words were soft, barely audible. "Please, tell her I'm okay." No one had to ask who she was. When news of the accident broke, the internet froze. Hashtags exploded across every platform. Hashtag pray for Xukai. Hashtag stay strong Tansongyun. Fans waited desperately for an update. Statements were delayed, the agencies stayed silent. And that silence felt endless. Then came the first image, a grainy photo of Tan Songyun rushing into the hospital, her face pale, her hands trembling, surrounded by staff and security. No makeup. No stylist. No cameras. Just a woman terrified of losing the person she cared about most. Inside the hospital, she waited outside the intensive care unit for hours. Reporters later said she didn't sit once. She just stood, eyes red, hands clasped tightly, whispering prayers no one could hear. When a nurse finally emerged, whispering that his condition was stable but critical, her body gave out. She collapsed, sobbing uncontrollably, surrounded by friends who tried to hold her up. The footage leaked later that night, not meant for the public, but captured by a passerby. It showed Tan Songyun crying into her hands, whispering his name over and over again. The world watched, heartbroken. In those hours, fandoms that once debated and divided came together. Thousands of fans posted messages, videos, even candlelight vigils. Some prayed. Some wrote letters. Some simply posted photos of Xukai smiling, as if holding on to the version of him they couldn't bear to lose. "You've been our light for years, now it's our turn to light the way for you," one fan wrote. Even celebrities began sharing support. Co-stars, directors, and even international brands posted messages of hope. But all eyes remained on one woman, Tan Songyun. Because every camera that caught her face, every image that surfaced from that night, showed something raw, something the industry rarely lets the public see. Real fear. Real love. Real pain. By morning, Xukai was stable. Doctors confirmed that he had suffered minor internal injuries and a concussion, but was out of immediate danger. The world exhaled. The hashtags changed, from grief to relief. Hashtag thank you doctors. Hashtag Xukai strong. But when Tan Songyun finally stepped outside to address the waiting press, her face was still streaked with tears. She spoke softly, her voice shaking. "He's strong. He's going to be okay. Thank you for praying for him. Please, just let him rest." Then she paused, her breath catching. "He always tells everyone to smile. So please, keep smiling for him." It was the kind of moment that silenced even the loudest reporters. A glimpse of a woman's heart, stripped bare before the world. For days after, she was seen at the hospital, staying late into the night. Fans left flowers and letters outside the entrance, some addressed to her directly, thanking her for her strength. When Xukai finally regained full consciousness, a nurse overheard the first words he said. "Where is she?" And when Tan Songyun entered the room, fragile, exhausted, but smiling through tears, he managed a faint laugh. "You've been crying again," he whispered. She shook her head, trying to smile back. "I told you to stop scaring me like this." The room went quiet. Then, he reached for her hand. And for the first time in days, she laughed, weak, trembling, but real. Within hours, the news spread that Xukai was recovering quickly, and Tan Songyun had remained by his side until his condition stabilized. Fans cried again, this time, tears of relief. One trending post read, "Love isn't always red carpets and awards. Sometimes, it's the sound of someone waiting outside your hospital door, refusing to leave." And that was exactly what Tan Songyun had done. Weeks later, when Xukai made his first public statement, it wasn't through a press release. It was a handwritten note. It read, "I opened my eyes and saw the person I love most standing there. I knew I was safe. Thank you for waiting for me." He never mentioned her name. He didn't have to. Everyone knew. In the days that followed, fans described what happened as one of the most emotional moments in recent celebrity history, a reminder that even behind fame and perfection, there are hearts that break and bleed like anyone else's. And for many, the image that would stay forever wasn't the accident, or the chaos, or the headlines. It was Tan Songyun, on that hospital floor, clutching her chest, whispering his name. Because that was the moment the world understood something simple, something pure. That love, when it's real, isn't just about smiling for the cameras. It's about standing through the storms. It's about breaking, and still choosing to stay. It was a quiet morning, soft light spilling into the hospital room, the smell of disinfectant still heavy in the air. He stirred first, blinking weakly, his voice hoarse. "Why are you crying?" he murmured. She laughed through tears. "Because you scared me." He tried to sit up, wincing, and she hurried to steady him. The monitors beeped softly, the soundtrack of fragile hope. "I thought I lost you," she whispered. And he shook his head slowly, still pale, still weak, but with that same quiet strength that had carried him through every role, every hardship. "You'll never lose me," he said. "Not now. Not ever." Those words, simple, raw, unfiltered, would echo far beyond that hospital room. When Tsukai's recovery was finally confirmed, the world rejoiced. Fans who had spent sleepless nights watching for updates now flooded the internet with joy and gratitude. Clips of Tan Songyun's vigil outside the ICU turned into tributes, montages set to soft piano music, with captions like "This is what real love looks like." One fan comment, liked over 500,000 times, read, "She didn't post a word. She didn't make a statement. She just stayed. That's love in its purest form." And maybe that was true. Because in a world built on image and performance, Tan Songyun's quiet, unguarded devotion felt real, heartbreakingly real. Weeks passed. Xukai recovered faster than anyone expected. His agency announced that his upcoming projects would be postponed to allow for full healing, but his spirit was strong, and his gratitude stronger. Still, the media's question lingered like a shadow. Would he speak about that night? Would he acknowledge what everyone had already seen, the woman who never left his side? At first, he remained silent. But silence has a way of turning into its own kind of truth. And so, from tragedy came renewal. Because sometimes, it takes losing everything to realize what, and who, truly matters. Tan Songyun's tears that night were not just for fear of losing him. They were for the years they'd spent taking each other for granted, for the words left unspoken, for the love that had always been there, waiting to be seen. And when Xukai survived, she understood something she hadn't before. That some people don't just walk into your life, they anchor it. Now, fans look back on that heartbreaking night not just as the night Xukai almost didn't make it, but as the night love proved stronger than fate. Because in the end, it wasn't the accident that defined their story. It was what came after. The waiting. The crying. The holding on. And when the world saw Tan Songyun collapse in tears, they didn't just see a woman breaking. They saw love, raw, terrified, unstoppable, in its purest form.